view it. They can view it later on. We'll post it, and Sarah will send out the link to folks as well. We also will have the PowerPoint on the Google Drive. But anyway, I know that most districts are just assessing, the damage and the interruption in instruction right now, and assessing that. As far as it goes from us, feel free to reach out. I mean, if this puts you guys behind on any timelines or anything that has to do with us coming from our office, just reach out and give us a phone call. Let us know. We can certainly work with you on that. These are exceptional circumstances, and we're just hoping the best for everyone, and that the district can get up and running, and all the schools can be up and running as soon as possible, and we can get back to normal life as best we can. So that was the first thing to talk about. The next one, if we can go on to the agenda. So we're going to start with a few, we just have a few items today. It's actually a fairly short information session today, but we'll start today with a few things about EdPlan SC, some updates that we have, and then we'll move on to supported decision-making and a document that is designed to assist parents, students, and educators as well. And then have some announcements about some upcoming learning events, the Assistive Technology and Leadership Conference, some offerings from the Academic Alliance of South Carolina, and then also from Skippy as well. So if we could get started, we'll go with the EdPlan updates. All right. The first thing, and many of you probably already know this, there was a memo that went out. But there's been a change in data provisioning for EdPlan SC. And I'll talk a little bit more about that through some illustrations, but there's a few reasons why we did this. One was there were some data discrepancies that we noticed and that had been reported by school districts between what was showing up in EdPlan versus what was in PowerSchool for that district. And in looking at that, we saw that it might be possible to solve that by changing where the data came from. Also, some districts have expressed to us some concerns about the speed in which, a child enrolls, get into PowerSchool, and then gets back in EdPlan. So this change in provisioning should help with that, cutting down the amount of time that it takes for a student to go from PowerSchool to get into EdPlan. We made this switch on September 26th. A lot of you have been out since that date because of the hurricane. But we would ask that you take a look at your Zendesk tickets. If you put in any Zendesk tickets regarding a data discrepancy, to see if that discrepancy has been resolved. We think that many of the discrepancies that had been reported would be resolved by this direct provisioning. But there's a few illustrations we have that I'll get to in a second that show kind of what this change really is, just to explain it a little bit more to you guys as to what it means to change the provisioning or the data. And this would be, the demographic data and other data that comes from originates in PowerSchool and then ultimately makes its way into EdPlan. Then I also wanted to talk about reporting. I have talked to some directors, and they were, obviously we're getting closer to when we're going to have to start submitting reports out of EdPlan SC. And so I'll talk a little bit about that and just the difference between, there was a session on advanced reporting. That's a tool that you can build your own reports from. It is a fairly complicated tool, and we know that it was somewhat like drinking water from a fire hose and trying to take in that information. So there'll be more on that, but we're going to kind of change our focus and reboot and go to standard reporting and talk a little bit about that today, but then give you some dates where we're going to delve more into and do some virtual training on the standard reporting function in EdPlan SC. Also, there were some changes with respect to progress reports. So there wasn't reminders in the system, but we're going to launch some reminders on Friday. Basically, what we'll do is it will send reminders about progress reports based upon your school district calendar for providing progress reports for students. It will give a reminder 3 days before they're due, 1 day before they're due, and then the day after the due date. It will let users know that it is past due. And so the user types that it will go to in the system are team lead, special education teacher, and then the service provider. So OTs, PTs, SLPs, and anybody else who's got that user type of service provider in the system. The case manager will continue to get reminders until the report is finalized. The others in the system will get reminders until they complete a draft of their goal in this system. So if you're an occupational therapist and you draft some of the reports, progress reports on your goals in the IEP system, then it won't trigger any more reminders for you, but it will continue to remind the case manager until the report is completed and finalized. All right, if we could go on to the next slide. So this is kind of the graphical just depiction. We showed you this once before on how data gets into EdPlan and out of EdPlan. So unlike Enrich, this system will be a two-way communication system between the data warehouses at the state level and the district level and EdPlan SCU. With Enrich, it was a one-way flow. It just got demographic data that it received from PowerSchool. But this is a two-way communication feed. But this feed was mostly intended to address problems that we were seeing by having the state data warehouse be the source for EdPlan SC. So you'll see in the old system, the data flowed from the source, the student information system at the district level. Then it went to the district ODS and stored in the district warehouse. But then it moved from there to the state data warehouse, to the state EdFi ODS. And then at that point, it was provisioned out to EdPlan SC. Now, what this means is that each step of this process, takes time. So it has to be a feed. So there's a feed from the student information system to the district ODS. There's another nightly feed from the district ODS to the state ODS. So obviously, as it travels down the chain, it will take more time. And there's also certain validations that go on, particularly at the state level, that at times we're adjusting data, and that's what we were seeing in your state, in your EdPlan environments. We would see some changes had been made and some discrepancies between the data that was coming from the SIS and then coming back when it came through the state ODS. So next slide. So in order to address these, what we did was we changed the provisioning to the district data warehouse or the district ODS. So after the student information system feeds, it's going to go to your district ODS, and then it'll go to the district data warehouse. So it'll be provisioned locally and then get to your EdPlan SC as well. So you can see it's a step earlier in the process that EdPlan SC receives its information from the student information system. So this cuts out one nightly feed. So that means that you could be seeing students in your system 24 hours earlier than you would have when it was provisioned from the state data warehouse. We'll also be taking the information out of EdPlan SC, uploading it into your ODS, your district ODS, and then it'll flow to the state collection so that we have aggregate data at the state level as well. So like I said, two things that you want to do is if you put in a Zendesk ticket that had to do with data discrepancies, in other words, you were seeing one student and maybe the name had changed or information within that student's file did not match what the student or it was another student's information, we would ask that you look at that to see your Zendesk ticket and see if it's been corrected, and please close out those tickets. As if they are. If it was resolved by this new provisioning, which, like I said, started towards the end of last week, then we're hoping that many of those data discrepancy tickets will be resolved. But in order for us to know, and in order for PCG to know, you got to close out your Zendesk tickets. So look at that. The other thing is it should increase speed. So this should be a win-win for districts for sure. Like I said, it's a faster flow of data into EdPlan SC directly from your student information system, and we're hoping for greater accuracy on that. But to know for sure, you guys know your data the best, please check your data. Please check your Zendesk tickets and let us know whether you're seeing improvements in that area. All right, next one. So we're reporting on EdPlan SC. Several people had reached out and had asked about reporting, especially as we approach child count in October. And so we're just going to go ahead and try to give you guys additional data. The first thing is just to start from, in the system, how do you access the reports? The standard reporting is what we're going to start with. And that functionality is in the system. It looks like that screenshot where it's EdPlan SC every day. So that's where your standard reporting is. And that standard reporting contains your federal reports. It also contains some other pre-built reports that could be helpful in managing the IEP system and managing your IEP process. And so PCG is going to take us through that. In a webinar on October 17th, we'll give you an exact time. We think it's going to be that afternoon, so we're just finalizing that. But we will send out a notice to all power users and special ed directors on that webinar. It will be recorded if you're not available on the afternoon of the 17th. It'll be recorded so you can do it. There's also a number of quick reference guides, and they're working on some additional ones as well that'll be available in the Zendesk area on the EdPlan SC product that'll give you step-by-step instructions on how to access the reports. And then we do anticipate at some point, obviously, Carolyn will have meetings with data managers and so forth so that they can go over, after you print your report, once you find your report and you print it, what to look for and how to make corrections. So we'll talk about that as well. But this will just be basically a tutorial on how to access your reports, what to look for in that respect, and how to download it and view it so that you can check your data. As far as advanced reporting, I know that many of you were like, well, we're going to have to revisit this again. Once that you can certainly play around in there, and if you want to build some reports, you can certainly do it. So that just treat that training that we provided as kind of an introductory, but we will be revisiting that and providing more information on advanced reporting and building your own reports as we get further along. So we're putting that off to a later date till districts are more familiar with the system. Because like I said, it is a fairly complicated and not necessarily intuitive tool as for building your own reports, but it does allow you to pretty much reach any field in the system. But those reports will be more robust as IEPs, annuals, and initials are developed within the EdPlan system. So that is that. Any questions out there? I'm looking at the chat. Any questions about the things we covered on EdPlan, about the provisioning or the reminders or the reporting?
Peter, this is Sarah McKay. I don't see anything in the chat.
Yeah, I don't either. Well, if you guys have questions as we go along, just let me know, put it in the chat, and Cheryl will track that. So with that, I'll turn it over to Sarah to move on to the next step.
Thank you. Let's see, we have, I lost track of my screens here. Dr. Lynette Cox.
Hello. Thank you all for allowing me a brief moment to speak with you about the supported decision-making document you have access to through EdPlan. The supported decision-making project in South Carolina was spearheaded by ABLE, the ARC of South Carolina, Family Connection, disability rights, and is supported by the South Carolina Department of Education, Office of Special Education Services. It is funded by the South Carolina Development Disabilities Council. There are about 26 states in which supported decision-making is related to legislation. South Carolina is not one of those states, but the SDM project's goal in South Carolina is to educate families with regard to their options as the student approaches the age of majority. We strongly encourage individuals and families to seek the least restrictive option of decision-making in support of ensuring personal autonomy. The SDM Coalition, made of representatives from the ARC of South Carolina, ABLE, Disability Rights, Project Search, Family Connection, and OSIS, found it helpful to provide this document, and we thank you all for your willingness to share it, as there are alternatives to full guardianship. We want to ensure that families have at their fingertips knowledge to make an informed decision. Whether the student automatically makes decisions at the age of 18, or if there's an informal agreement in which the student makes educational decisions with a trusted adult, or if the student delegates their rights to an agent, or if a medical professional certifies that the student is incapable of making that decision, or finally, if probate court has assigned those rights to a court-appointed guardian, this one-pager you all have is merely a resource and has no bearing on those choices. The process of notation is the same. The SDM process guide, the SDM project guide you have leads to a link that students and their families can use to plan and gauge the appropriateness of each option. There are tools to help students as they make that determination. Also included in the supported decision-making webpage are resources to aid the individual after they have completed their public education. The Stop, Look, and Listen tool can be done with your transition specialist, teacher, or just at home. It is simply a tool, helpful, but in no way required, obviously. Ultimately, the goal of this guide is to reinforce the stance that all adults with disabilities should be involved to the fullest extent possible in all conversations and general management relating to their personal affairs. Because we serve students, adult students with disabilities, it is vital to the SDM Coalition that family units understand their choices and have the means by which to make appropriate decisions and be aware of the many areas to address as these adults prepare to make the transition from public school. That is the basic perspective of the document. And thank you for sharing that with everyone, Sarah McKay. Again, on behalf of the SDM Coalition, we thank each of you for sharing this document with your families. We do have the information on the webpage in Spanish, and should you wish to explore supported decision-making on a national level, I will include the website in the chat.
Thank you, Lynette. Next up, we have Madalena Tudora to talk to us about the Assistive Technology Leadership Conference.
Thank you, Sarah. And I will go ahead and put the link in the chat for whoever has access to it. So we are very excited to make you aware, in case you're not, that we are fast approaching our yearly event for assistive technology leaders in the state. We do focus around resources, networking, and providing support to assistive technology teams specifically. So this is not an event open to the public at large, but we do encourage you to attend and have your teams attend. This is an event for them. We have a whole day of focusing on specifically on the federal guidance that came out early this year. We're going to go in depth into how that impacts school districts. And also we will have the topic of accessibility as a follow-up to last year. So please feel free to invite your teams to attend. This is a free event. And you will see that in the next slide, please. So here's your link to register. You can also find that on the link in the chat. If you scroll down, you will also find a detailed agenda of what we have planned for the day. But please feel free to put this out there for your teams and your district leaders that are serving kids and providing AT services in the state. Thank you.
Thank you, Madalena. Next up, we have Dr. Susan Thomas from the Academic Alliance of South Carolina.
Thank you, Sarah. I will only take a moment. Just wanted to go through our October opportunities. I've also put a link in the chat of a one-page flyer that has all of these listed with links to those that you are free to share out to others in your district. We will be at our partners SC Early Childhood Inclusion Conference, and we are sponsoring a session with Dr. Suzanne Adloff from the University of South Carolina. And we will also have a table. So if you're going to be there, do come by and see us. We have 2 communities of practice going on. One is about practitioners supporting students with extensive support needs. The other one is for database problem solving community of practice for those who are working with teams and doing problem solving using their data. It's really fits within our MTSS framework. And so those are 2 that are open anytime if people want to join. Members of the team decide the content, and we're trying to make them true communities of practice. And then finally, on October 23rd, we have our Evidence-Based Practices Network webinar. This one will be on task difficulty, sequencing, and choice. Those are 3 high leverage instructional strategies that increase student learning and behavior. Leslie Creel, an instructional specialist from the Berkeley County School District, will be talking with our viewers, and you can earn certificate renewal credit. So those are our opportunities, and we look forward to seeing you this month. Thanks.
Thank you, Susan. Next up is Melissa Griffin.
Thanks, Sarah. And thanks, Susan, for talking about our conference. That is what I wanted to talk about today as well. We have a little bit of time left for districts to register for our 3rd annual Early Childhood Inclusion Conference. And we're so excited to have our SC teams partners there with us. And so you can, if you'll go to the next slide, you can see the full schedule now if you visit our website, or you can utilize this link to learn more about the conference, what we have to offer. And also, if you would share this with your general education counterparts, that would be great. We're trying to increase attendance within the Gen Ed group of colleagues. So we'd appreciate if you'd share that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And we have next up is Shannon Jones. You had something you wanted to share as well. We don't have a slide for that, but that's okay.
Yes, and I apologize that we don't have a slide. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, and I apologize that we don't have a slide. The person who's over this is still without electricity or power, so I'm just jumping in for her. But we just wanted to make a quick announcement about New Directors Leadership Academy, which will be starting up this November. We apologize that we are just getting this started, but with all the transitions in the office and all the movement and the new IEP system, this is just the best time to get it going. So the first one will begin on November the 4th. It will be a series of 5 of them running from November to April, a combination of face-to-face as well as virtual. You all will be getting more information about this, but immediately afterwards, Sarah will send out the memo via the listserv that gives all the information and breakdown of everything that has to do with New Directors Leadership Academy. So if you are a new director in year 1, or if you came in the middle of the year last year and haven't completed a round of New Directors Leadership Academy, we invite you to register. I will also stick the registration link in the chat chat for you to quickly register and fill out. And again, we will send a memo out immediately after this meeting.
Thanks, Shannon. Okay, I
Thank
think
you,
that's it.
Shannon.
Yeah, I think that's everybody. And I knew they were trying to send me some things, but I apologize for that. Shannon, I should have been looking for that.
So yeah, I was just going to say, after looking at it, we have a decent amount of stuff on the 17th. So I had said that we might do that data, the reporting. We may look at the 18th. I'll have to check with PCG on that. But regardless, you'll get, we're going to definitely try to do that before the 4th Tuesday in October, the magic date. Just so you guys are more familiar with where to find the federal reporting. Those reports in the standard reporting are what they call pre-built one-click reports. So they're pretty easy to get to and access, but that's what we're going to focus on first, just so you guys are familiar with where to go and how to get your reports. So we may look into another day, probably that Friday, the 18th, if PCG is available on that date. But anyway, look for that. Look for the updated one. Like I said, we'll send it out to directors. We'll send it out to power users and your data managers so that they have notice of when that virtual training will be. We anticipate it'll be about a 90-minute training just to go through the standard reporting functions in EdPlan SC. So look for that. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate it, especially I know it's probably really busy for many of you, and we hope
Peter?
that, yeah,
This is Karen Whitlock in Hampton. I just have a quick question about progress
Sure.
reports. And it may be more of a PCG question, but due to the storm, some of my teachers are panicking. We still have a lot of people without power about getting it done on time. And we don't really want to change that date, but like if they don't get it till a day or two after, they can still put it in late. Is that correct or not correct?
we see. I don't want to confirm that without, I'm trying to see if Katie's on. Yeah,
I'm on.
Okay,
Yep.
I was hoping she was on. I couldn't tell either.
So, you know those dates that when you put it in there and you're telling it when it's due, you
Yes.
would want to alter those dates, but I can get with you on looking at that.
Okay, so because that what we were wondering was how hard of a deadline is that? If like because that is when our report cards are coming out, but if our teachers haven't had a chance right now, that date's coming up awful fast and they've been off for almost a week now. When we count a short day Thursday and they were off Friday, Saturday, we're still having e-learning tomorrow. So teachers don't come actually back and some of them don't have power at home. We're at about 25% of our teachers, I went and called everyone today, are still without power. So they were kind of saying, what if I don't get my progress reports in? And that's what the decision I was trying to make. Do we change that date? Or for those who are late, are they able to put it in if they're a couple days late?
So I don't know, Peter, what would be the way that you would want them to document that it was overdue? And
yeah.
then
I
we
mean,
would just have to
you know,
adjust the
obviously
system.
you try to, you know, the timeline is tied to the general ed that, you know, you got to give it out progress reports with the same frequency. And we, of course, would want it to go out at the same time as we send out our reports, our progress reports for non-disabled students. But given the emergencies, I mean, I think for those districts where they've had to close down, and if it's a day or two late, I mean, you could just note it that, you know, but you know, Katie might be able to work with in the system how you change it, so that it doesn't, you know, draw up too many red flags that freak your teachers out. So Katie, you could work with them on adjusting the date in this particular circumstance, and we'll just note it. Like I said, it's one of those things that there is a amount of reasonableness built in. We do the best we can to provide them in a timely manner, which would be in line with when non-disabled peers receive their progress reports. But the federal government knows. They've already reached out to us. OSIP reached out to us. They know we were hit hard by Helene, and so they're very sympathetic to it. So they know that at times if it disrupts electronic, activities, that it's going to cause delays. So they're understanding of that. So if it's a day or two for those districts who were hit hard and weren't able to access the system for several days, that makes complete sense. I would just note it as a district. I think what they're really looking for, if it's a practice, not if it's a one-time episode due to unforeseen circumstances. And so I think, Katie, they're asking, do they need to change the dates in this system for them to be able to complete them for it to be finalized in the system?
Yeah, I'm gonna confirm with PCG about changing it for the quarters because they're set up in quarters. And it's my understanding once that quarter is done, then you wouldn't have that report. But I think you can still do it. So I'll confirm and I'll put something out in the power user group. Just because I think there's gonna be a lot of districts that are gonna be in this situation. So I'll talk to Nick and ensure that we have the right information for those that need to change dates, or if you need to change the date.
Yeah, that makes complete sense, Karen. I mean, you obviously, if some people, you want to try to keep pushing to try to get them on time if they're able to do so, but if there are some instances where teachers just aren't able to have internet access, they might not even have power. So it's completely understandable. They might not be able to complete them on time. So I don't think it's going to be a problematic from our standpoint. And like I said, I don't think OSIP or OCR would understand that the unforeseen circumstances that happened in the state. So, but we'll just try to confirm with you and get you some information just to make sure that those teachers can finalize in the system. So Katie will get that out.
Thank you.
Any other questions on anything that was covered today?
I just saw an email pop up. Peter, do we have time for Cheryl to talk about the parent videos, or should we table that for next week?
We just there's a little bit of we're a little bit low. Usually we have over 100 participants. Today we have 60. So I don't know if Cheryl, we want to cover that next time. Let's put it on the agenda.
Yeah, let's put it on next agenda, Sarah.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. That's all.
Let's put that one off. We'll definitely get to it. We're excited to announce it, but we'd like to get a bigger audience if possible.
Yeah.
Hopefully everybody will be back. I know there's still a number of school districts still closed today. So, but anyway, like I said, one last reminder, one push, please look at your Zendesk tickets. If you did have one that was based on data discrepancy, we really want to know if this change in provisioning solved it for you. So if it has, let us know. If it hasn't, let us know. So and that would be letting PCG know and us as well, whether your discrepancies were resolved or not. So when you get a chance, when you're on the system, when you get power, when you get internet connection, please check those Zendesk tickets. Thank you. Stay safe.
All right. Thank you.
And Kelly, if you're still on, I just responded to your message about doing NDLA